Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to. I don't really know what this show is called. It's just we talk about D&D.
What did you call the last one?
I think I just called it discussing D&D. To be honest.
Well, there you go. Welcome
Um,
back to discussing
yeah.
D&D.
Working title we call it Dungeons and Dogwing, but that makes no sense to anyone
No.
apart from us. So last time we did the barbarian, the Path of the
Uh-huh.
Beast barbarian.
And
This
this time we're doing
week,
Monk.
or this episode, I don't actually know if these are coming out weekly or whatever. Monk, Way of Mercy Monk. Before getting to that, what do you think of Monk, Chad? I know you have opinions.
I've never played a Monk, nor
Neither
have
have
you.
I. I've seen very few monks actually. I've only
Yeah, I've seen two Monks in campaigns that I've played. They seem effective in combat.
yeah.
I think we both probably have the same issue with Monk in terms of its theming.
I've seen one monk, and he was going to change to something else, but then left the campaign anyway. Um, but yeah. The main thing I kind of like monk because I like punchy dudes, and I like the idea of a someone who
Pugilist.
punches and does like pugilist basically. But
Yeah. Or a
um
brawler.
I much prefer kind of the more brawler style stuff. Like I watch wrestling because I'm a massive idiot. Um, so I kind of just like big meaty men punching people.
Uh-huh.
But
And there isn't really nothing really supports that,
and
frankly
monk
speaking,
is
right?
definitely more
You're the
monastery
you're the tranquil kind of.
tranquil, like traditional monks.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
difficult to reflavor this stuff, I would say.
yeah, you kind of can, but then a lot of it comes down to your key and like your
Yeah,
like your inner key,
I
which
mean,
is
like
which doesn't really work for like a pugilist.
for a barbarian, you can reflavor rage to be like an intense focus, still to almost be the opposite of rage, right? And
Mm,
it still works perfectly well. But I don't. Maybe we're just limited in our creative capacity. I think it's
it
a lot harder.
it could be, yeah. It's just key. How do you reflavor key to not be magic? Is kind of the question, right? Like key as a
Um,
concept is kind of like
I suppose.
an abstract magical thing where it
Hmm.
allows you to like age less eventually. It's one of those things where if I'm making someone who punches people, them aging or not aging doesn't make sense because why would that make sense? Like what's he
Yeah.
doing that's making him like a drunken monk is drinking so much that they no longer age. They're just
Oh,
drunk.
well, it is definitely like the trope of being like fully in control of your body, sort
Hmm.
of thing, right? Your body is a temple type thing. A diamond soul, timeless body, all the empty body, perfect soul, purity of body, stillness of mind. These are all like features from the monk, and
Yeah.
uh, I feel like there's not many other tropes that kind of embody that outside kind of the what you get out of the box with monk.
Yeah.
And it's obviously it's just a little out of place in the compared to the rest of D&D, in that it's obviously like the Eastern flavored class, and it depends on what kind of setting you're in as to how
Yeah.
well that works in there.
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, is probably again due to the limitation of players and DMs than it is necessarily the class of the class of flavor.
Yeah. I guess for anyone that plays League of Legends, I know you don't, Chad, but Lee Sin is
I
a
don't.
monk. He's a blind monk, so it's very much a standard, like, uses his mind and soul to work out where people are and that kind of thing. And he is a traditional monk. And they recently released a character called Set, who is much more of a punchy dude. And I would not be able to get that kind of brawler punchy dude to fit in with the way a monk is kind of portrayed in D&D, unlike Lee Sin, who I definitely could very easily. Um, and it's just that dissonance where there's not really anything else, which is just a non-weapon using melee character. Well, you
Mm,
can use weapons, but a non-weapon using melee character that isn't going to be a massive detriment
sure,
by not using a
that is
weapon,
as
right?
effective. Like I mean, the core stuff, like the unarmored defense, the ability to like do like four attacks in a round, with two with your main attack, two with your bonus action. Like that all works pretty well. The extra movement, I think, yeah, most of that stuff can be reflavored really easily. But then it's the other stuff that you kind of get in addition to that, which could
Yeah,
probably, to be honest, be more of a subclass. Deflect missiles is like that's really specifically. like themed, I guess. So what's the word I'm looking for? Not themed, but like uh, inspired by the
Yeah.
specific stuff, right?
I mean,
And then
you can.
obviously,
That's one of the ones I guess you can just be like, you just punch it out the air or something,
oh,
or
sure,
you just
sure.
take it in the chest and go whatever.
But then you very quickly start to get into the much more wisdom based
Yes,
stuff.
purity of body, diamond
Yeah,
soul, timeless
when you
body,
start getting all that stuff, that it
um,
kind of doesn't fit quite the
tongue
same way.
of
In my
sun and moon. What is that?
opinion.
You
Sun
learn
and
to
moon.
touch the key of minds so you can understand all spoken languages. Like that is
Yeah, exactly.
the Rock ain't doing
That's
that. Triple H ain't doing that, is he?
the wisdom is a really key feature of the monk.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we think about monk. It's pigeonholed. I think
Yeah.
is the only bad thing about it. But like for what it still does, it's fine. I think it does the monk thing well. I would say if you
Yes.
want to play like a Diablo style monk, then this is you'll reach that with with this class, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's effective. It's not like one of the best classes. I think
Yeah.
it's still arguably like the worst one down there with Ranger. But
I think it's got a lot of cool stuff going for like stunning strike and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Where and even though we just kind of shout on saying, "Oh, you can only really be a monk," monks are still pretty cool.
yeah, monks are cool. Yeah,
But if I just kind of scroll back up here to the Path of the Beast stuff, they got these 4 origins for the Path of the Beast. Like that's just one type of barbarian. There's 4 different ways of kind of going for that just one subclass.
yeah,
Not really many ways you can go with monk. It's basically just like which monastery
yeah.
do you join? Did you join it because you wanted to, or because you were forced, or because like, why did you join the monastery? Is kind of the biggest change
Yeah.
in how you play your character.
Again, that's the thing that I was saying last time, where certain subclasses are a lot more restrictive than others. Again, things like the wizards are mostly about the school of magic that they studied. The clerics are mostly about the domain of the god that they worship. Monks are the same in this sense, so they're a lot more specific than barbarian or rogue or fighter.
Yeah, and I think it's something you were basically saying to me earlier about when you make a class and you look at the class features, you want them to be impactful and fit in with the way you want to play. So, for example, like you were saying, tiger, totem, barbarian, lets you jump more, which is kind of not helpful. But you can kind of see how you want to flavor that. It's just it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
You kind of want
could
that.
be
You
really
kind of want
cool
them to
jumping around
combine,
the
right?
battlefield. Sounds cool,
Yeah.
and like there are tropes of characters like that in media, but doing that doesn't isn't a particularly effective thing to do in D&D's rules.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you can just ignore it. Like I know that I'm playing, my Forge cleric. Probably is never going to do turn undead or use any of the undead stuff because that's not really like clerics do that, but he's not really going to do it. It's kind of sucks that I'm just basically like going to ignore a fairly useful part of the class.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll probably use it just because you can
you've got
configure
it
it somehow. You
some
kind of have it. You kind of should use it, but it's a bit like. I guess it's difficult. It's difficult to try and make a character that's going to fit every single part of a class, unless it's very, very like generic.
Yeah.
Which isn't really. I guess it can be fun. It depends what you kind of want to do. But maybe it's a fault of mine or a fault of ours, where we try to make two characters that are too unique. Like maybe
Not
sometimes
necessarily. I think
a monk
some
is
of the
actually like a smart idea.
I think some of the base cleric stuff, like all clerics have a problem with undead, is a little restrictive. You know, all clerics have a problem with undead in the sense that they get access to turn undead. Paladins, they get like divine sense, and I think that's fine because divine sense is pretty wide and open. And their channel divinities, some of them target undead, some of them target other things, some of them target fiends, some of them target fae and stuff as well. And then a lot of them just do completely unrelated things. But yeah, every cleric, even clerics that I guess wouldn't particularly care about undead.
Why would a trickster cleric give a shit about undead? Why would a forge cleric give a shit? Why would the ones that really are going to give a shit are like light, life, grave.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the ones that are really going to give a shit about undead because you can kind of flavor it like that's the easier ones.
Storm. In like official lore settings, they probably do still have problems with undead, but like in our own ones, like someone who worships through crafting weapons for their god or something, yeah, undead aren't a big deal to them.
But put it this way: who doesn't have a problem with undead apart from necromancers?
Yeah, pretty
Everyone's gonna have a
much it,
problem with
yes.
undead. They're undead. They're scary. They're they're the risen dead of friends, family, and werewolves, vampires.
I
They're
guess
not good people. Like yeah, clerics can do stuff with them, but no one's really gonna have a no one's really gonna like undead. Everyone's gonna have a problem with them.
I suppose you can think of it in a different way. Rather than your character having a problem with undead, it's that undead have a problem with any worship
That's true. Yeah, I
whatsoever.
guess that's the
And
thing.
your worship to your god is so strong that your presence to them is still something they can't tolerate,
Yes,
which kind of makes sense.
that is very true. Actually, I think that's probably the better way of looking at it. It's rather than a forged cleric having a problem with undead, the forged clerics just radiate so much godly energy from their
Faith.
faith that the undead have a problem with them. That's a good point. I think that's a good tip for anyone out there who had problems with the same problems we did. Just flip it around.
Yeah. Should we look at the subclass?
Yes. Anyway, we spent a long time not talking about the subclass, but I guess that's kind of the style of this.
You
This
might
thing.
want to like put annotations or something on the video. That
Yeah,
or
I meant to
a
do that for the last
description.
one as well. Maybe I'll
So
do
you should
that.
actually start talking about the subclass here.
Yes. Monk. Third level monk. The Way of Mercy.
Way of Mercy.
Way of Mercy.
I know a lot
Mercy
about Way of
mains.
Mercy because I'm a Mercy man.
You are a Mercy main.
I
You're a
actually
healer
feel
main.
like
Really.
I have a good feel for the theme of this class, but if you want to go ahead and read that out, I'll
Yeah.
go into that afterwards.
I've not read too much about this one. I was kind of thinking like I could have a gut reaction. You could have the more in depth reaction. See how that works. But monks of the Way of Mercy learn to manipulate the life force of others to bring aid to those in need. They are wandering physicians to the poor and hurt. However, to those beyond their help, whether ailing or evil, they bring a swift end as an act of mercy. Those who follow the Way of Mercy might be humble members of a religious order, administering to those in the greatest need, making grim choices rooted in reality rather than idealism. Some might be gentle-voiced healers, beloved by the communities, while others might be masked bringers of macabre mercies. The walkers of this way usually don simple robes with deep cowls, and they often conceal their faces with masks, preventing themselves as a faceless bringer of life and death. If you wear a mask, choose its appearance, or determine the following. But don't randomly by rolling on the merciful mask table. Interesting table. So you got Raven. That's a very common one. Raven Queen. Blank and white. I like
white?
those kind of masks. I like blank masks because they are a little spooky.
Yeah.
Crying visage, laughing visage, skull, and butterfly are the 6 there. Obviously, another one, the classic plague mask. That's always a classic mask to have on.
Of course. Especially for this, like the wandering physician theme that they're going for here. So this is pretty much the backstory that I made for my Grave Cleric in the Tomb of Annihilation game I was playing. Right? It's a guy who brings about death as an act of mercy and tries to help those people who still can be helped. They kind of like extend that beyond to ending people who are beyond help if they're evil, rather than just if they're if they have like a terminal illness or something like that. Now, if I was to make a character like that, I probably wouldn't choose a monk.
This is exactly what we were talking about, right? Like, this is a cool idea, and I do like it. But how do you tie this into purity of body? How do you tie this into Diamond Soul? How do you tie this into Tongue of Sun and Moon?
I think it ties into that stuff fine. I think it doesn't tie into the martial arts that well. Is my issue, which is the other core of the class. Like, you can have a character who cares about the body and the soul and stuff, and goes around being a physician, but there's a little bit of dissonance to me that person is also an expert in martial arts, unless you are still going for the same trope that every monk goes for, which is, you're part of a monastery and you study martial arts as a way of better understanding the body, and that is fine, but I feel like a grave cleric
I feel like
might even fit that idea more.
Yeah,
like as if you did just want to be a wandering physician, if that was your main trope, outside of I want to be a wandering physician who is a monk on top of it.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be the way that I initially approached that sort of character. But as a monk, I think it's a fine thing to do. Monk first, this second. It's an interesting theme.
Yes. Yeah, I do kind of like this theme. All right, so that's kind of the background with the masks. Obviously, you can come up with more masks. I've had a character who wore a blank gold mask, basically. Which is cool. Implements of Mercy. You gain proficiency in the Insight or Medicine skill, and you gain proficiency with the Herbalism kit and the Poisonous kit.
pretty decent, to be
Pretty
honest.
decent third level. Very, very,
They're,
very decent.
they're two good kits. I guess there's again the same dissonance that happens with so many subclasses when they give you proficiency in a tool that would be completely core to the person's background and identity that you should have had at level 1.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? Well, I guess the difference with this, right, is like even level 1 and 2, you can kind of play this character. It's not like suddenly you become level 3 and suddenly you've like,
Sure.
I'm amazing. It was, I guess, different to like. Guess I'm thinking of stuff like Arcane Trickster,
Yeah.
where level 1 and 2, obviously your background is going to lead you into Arcane Trickster, probably, but you can't do anything until you get to level 3.
Yeah.
Which is also why I generally go with start level 2, because level 1's garbage anyway.
Does Arcane Trickster get proficiency in Arcana when you get it?
Good question. Let's find out.
Doesn't look like you do. Okay, fair enough. But like, if you took a background that gave you proficiency in Arcana, it would make sense if you were planning to go into an Arcane Trickster.
Yeah.
But then to get proficiency in Arcana on top of that afterwards would seem like very strange. Likewise, if I was like, okay, well my character's a doctor, so they've got the acolyte background, or maybe they've got some other background that would give them the medicine skill. Then getting the medicine skill on top of that would be strange. Thankfully, this one gives you insight.
Yeah.
As another thing.
Yeah,
it's not wasted,
but
but in general, these are very weird things when they give these proficiencies.
I mean, the thing is with insight is you can get that as a monk anyway.
Yep.
So medicine checks are pretty good.
Medicine. In terms of the effectiveness of this class feature, that's pretty good compared to some of the other things that other monks get.
Yeah.
Drunken Master get brewer supplies and performance. I don't think many of the other ones get proficiencies and stuff. Medicine is always good, especially if you're playing a character like this. Insight is good. Herbalism and Poisoner kits are two pretty decent kits as well.
Yeah. Also, again, Herbalism kit and Poisoner kit, stuff you can do a lot with. And I like those kind of kits.
And they fit the theme well.
For a 3-line thing, we spoke a lot about it. The other third level, there's 2 more third levels things as well. Hands of Healing.
You get a few things.
Your Mystical Touch can mend wounds as an action. You can spend 1 key point to touch a creature and restore a number of hit points equal to your roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. When you use your Flurry of Blows, you can replace one of the unarmed strikes with the use of this feature without spending its key cost.
Yeah, so it's all right. As like someone who's supposed to be this kind of healer, for the most part, it sounds more like you're putting people out of their misery than you are actually helping them. But
well, you do both. Apparently, you punch someone to death and get someone back up.
The effectiveness of this mechanically, it does so little healing. Let's talk about getting this at 3rd level. You're doing an average of 5 or 6 healing to them. As an action is absolutely inexcusable, I would say. 1 key point is probably about the equivalent of a 1st level spell, or it should be in terms of like its efficiency. So it's like you're casting Cure Wounds, but doing a lot less with it. Also, it does require you to be within 5 feet of them.
But the fact that you can use it as part of a Flurry of Blows is quite nice.
Flurry of Blows. That's pretty much the only time you're going to want to use it. So monks are actually pretty good at like effectively using all of their actions and stuff in combat. A lot of the subclasses also get good ways to use your reaction too. You get a lot done in your turn. You can get like 4 attacks in your turn with your bonus actions as well. But when you have to sacrifice your action or your bonus action for something, it does kind of slow the monk down on their turn. Let me just double check. Is Patient Defense and Step of the Wind, you can spend 1 key point to take the dash or disengage, or that is as a bonus action. Okay, they're both as bonus actions. I wasn't sure if they were for free. So basically, you're exchanging 1 melee attack, because Flurry of Blows lets you make 2 instead of 1. You're exchanging 1 melee attack to use this. But Flurry of Blows has to be used immediately after the attack action. So you not only need an enemy in front of you, you also need your ally right next to you as well, which, to be fair, probably happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
But this isn't like a reliable healer.
No. I think this is useful if you have essentially another character that's going to be a melee that's going to go down.
Well, we'll come to that later, because this is a terrible class for that.
Okay. Should we move on to Hands of Harm?
One last thing I was going to say, the healing scales obviously with your martial arts die, but it doesn't scale with health pools. So like the healing is it's only really ever effective just to get someone back up off the ground.
Yeah.
And for that, it's just kind of a less good healing word. IMO.
I think really it just allows you to save a cleric's spell, or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But
at the cost of your key. So it is still a resource.
yeah, well, if you're going
Spend
to use the
and
key on flurry of
one
blows
key.
anyway, right?
Yeah, but the flurry of blows gives you normally exchanging one key point for one attack. So this is instead exchanging one key point for one heal. So you don't get
Yes,
when you're
I
using your
see.
flurry of blows.
You get two.
You're not actually gaining anything from the flurry of blows here. You're exchanging what flurry of blows would normally give you for this instead.
Yes.
The only difference is it allows you to do it as a bonus action if you do it immediately after taking an attack, as opposed to doing it as an action, which is still a lot better than doing it as an action.
Yeah.
Hands of harm.
Hands of harm. You use your key to inflict wounds. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend one key point to deal extra necrotic damage equal to one roll of your martial arts die. If the creature is incapacitated or poisoned, the creature instead takes necrotic damage equal to 3 rolls of your martial arts die instead. You can do this feature only once on each of your turns.
Once on each of your turns is a pretty good stipulation there. In terms of damage per key point, early on, this is a 1d4, which eventually becomes a 1d10.
Mm-hmm.
And your other use of the key point, like the default one would be Flurry of Blows to deal extra damage, which is 1d4 to 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier, but without the attack roll. So in terms of the extra damage you're getting out of this, it's a lot less than Flurry of Blows. You can use it in the same turn as Flurry of Blows, because also Flurry of Blows is also limited to one use per turn, just because it's a bonus action. But it is good if the creature is incapacitated or poisoned, which you do not have any way of dealing at level 3. You personally.
No.
If someone else in the party is poisoning things or incapacitating them, this works really well. But
is there
right
anything
now,
that really poisons at level 3?
unless
you're using your poison kit to coat your fists
or
in
something like
poison.
I'm not so sure about that. Also, I don't know how well the DMG. I think the poisons in the DMG. I don't know how good the DMG poisons are.
No.
This only works on unarmed attacks, and your main attack per turn and your main 2 attacks per turn are probably going to be with a weapon if you're trying to deal effective damage, because you can use a quarterstaff two-handed and then do your unarmed attacks afterwards. So you're normally going to only hit once or twice, depending on whether or not you use Flurry of Blows with your unarmed strikes. And unless they're incapacitated or poisoned, it's not really worth the key point for that extra damage, I would say, unless you really need to burst and just want to dump all of your key as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Compared to other subclasses, most of the monks don't really get crazy good stuff here. They get pretty defining stuff. This is usually actually, maybe it is the best thing they get at level 3. But even so, the Drunken Master gets it so that when they use Flurry of Blows, they can disengage and they walk faster for the turn. That's what they get at level 3. And that's going to be happening pretty often, but it's not like a super crazy strong ability,
Yeah.
It's not like it completely defines their class. Kensai definitely, it does really define them, because they get their weapons, so they're doing a lot more damage with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they get a couple of extra things they can do with it. A Way of the Open Hand, they can knock someone prone or knock someone back when they use Flurry of Blows. That's like the core thing that makes Way of the Open Hand so good. Shadow gets... they can spend key points to cast a small number of spells: Darkness, Dark Vision, Path Without Trace, Silence, which are all good spells. So, yeah, it's all right. Maybe about on the same power level as other things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that great for the kind of defining part of the class. I don't think it's that great.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, like you say, the dissonance between being putting someone out of their misery, and also being a martial arts master.
You're kind of good at finishing someone off, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, where it's like, the way I'm reading this is just as a comedy character. It's like this monk comes to your house and says, your person's very ill. We'll have to put them out of their misery. They just start punching them in the face. Punch them in the face until they start breathing.
Well, I mean, they do have a poisonous kid, so
they poison them, then they punch them in the face. It's only one punch.
Exactly. It does say, when you hit a creature with an arm, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah. But
not when you touch a creature.
That would be interesting.
The level 6 ability, I think, is probably the most defining one that kind of brings the subclass together.
Well, let's go over it. Noxious Aura. That's you.
That's me.
As a bonus action, you spend one key point to turn your key into an aura of toxic miasma. The aura extends 5 feet from you in every direction, but not through total cover. It lasts for 1 minute until you're incapacitated or you dismiss it. No action required. While your aura is active, ranged attacks have disadvantage against you. Any other creature that starts its turn in the aura must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be poisoned until its end of its next turn and take poison damage equal to your Wisdom modifier. Minimum of 0 damage, which is something you rarely see.
You rarely see.
You usually see a minimum of 1. You could have 0.
Where do you start with this one?
Well, at the top.
I think there's a lot to say about it. Like immediately, I mentioned how healing. What's it? Healing hands? That was called. Healing.
Yes.
Hands of healing.
Hands of healing
is most effective if someone is down right next to you. You don't want to be in melee with your friends with this because you're poisoning anyone within 5 feet of you. Anyone, not just enemies. So that's not great. Disadvantage on all ranged attacks against you is really strong. Possibly disadvantage on all melee attacks against you as well, depending whether or not they save in the con save. Pretty good. Poison is a decent condition to put on someone. Attack rolls and ability checks, and that's to anyone. But again, like if you're poisoning like a knight that you're fighting or something like that, he's probably only really attacking you because you don't want an ally right next to you with this as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little awkward. Obviously, this is how you poison people so that you can deal the extra damage from your martial arts die.
Also, at level 5, you'd have Stunning Strike as well, which is also a way to incapacitate them.
Oh, well, there you go. I hadn't thought of that. The extra damage for Hands of Harm is 3 times your martial arts die. Kensai actually get an ability on their weapon strikes to add their martial arts die on top. The martial arts die is like, it's not that much damage, and this can be 3 times that. So like, obviously theirs is on weapon attack, and this is specifically on unarmed attack, so it's like the opposite way around. But you get 2 of each if you're using Flurry of Bliss.
By the time you are level 6, you would have a D6 as your...
D6, sure. It's not bad, to be honest. 3d6, what's that compared to a rogue sneak attack? They have 3d6 level 6 as well. So it's almost like you're getting a sneak attack for 1 key. And you can attack twice, whereas a rogue can only attack once. Actually, you can attack like 4 times.
Yeah.
Whereas a rogue can only attack once. Just hope you don't have a rogue in the party, otherwise you're going to keep poisoning them, I guess.
Well, unless you stand the opposite side of them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or if the monster
you
is
can definitely,
large.
there's definitely ways to work around it. It's a little awkward.
It does, however, you are right, mate. The hands of
Especially if
healing
you
pretty
want
much
to heal
worthless.
them. Yeah, well, because you got to think about the hands of healing. You are right. You got your rogue has just gone down. You're both on opposite sides of the enemy. So you walk around the enemy, you punch the enemy, which then lets you use your flurry of blows. You use one of the flurry of blows to heal your friend back up. Then you punch the enemy again, and then I guess you move back around afterwards. But like, if you needed to move it out of, maybe you're within reach of someone else as well, and you can't disengage while you're doing that. And I don't know, the whole thing's kind of awkward the way you have to shuffle around to do it.
There's also, again, there's a dissonance in the way the way I would describe this. Like, when you're generally doing a monk stuff, you come up with a few different like just martial arts, punch, kick, that kind of thing. Describing how you punch a dude 3 times to also then heal your friend in the middle of it.
I mean, it can work.
It could work, but it's a little like, I guess it's quite acrobatic-y.
You're pretty, but that's what a monk is, right? Yeah. You're like super quick. You're doing all of these things in a really short time.
Yeah.
If there's one thing the monk captures well, I think it is that sense of getting a lot done in that short amount of time.
But it's just kind of that, like, when you're doing a flurry of blows, there's kind of a rhythm you can do to the kind of punches you do. You can do like a 1-2. Grab, like knee him in the face or something. When you're suddenly adding like 1-2, hand on your friend, 3. I don't know. There's something a little disjointed that maybe I'm just not smart enough for it.
No, I get it. It's awkward for sure. I just don't understand the flavor of this. This is so bizarre to me. Auras in general, I mean, like the Paladin aura stuff, that makes sense to me being magic, but this is supposed to be like a physical.
Like toxic miasma.
Thing. Not necessarily a physical body thing. Obviously, there's like
a mysticism
to this as well. But yeah, it's just a bit weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's, I don't know. There's something weird about like this is kind of like a disease spreading thing. Like you'd expect this from someone who is spreading disease.
Yeah, I mean, a plague doctor might work for this, but again, if I'm playing a plague doctor, I don't think of them as a martial artist.
That they would be a grave cleric.
Yeah, exactly. I'd make a grave cleric if I wanted to make a plague doctor.
Yeah. So I guess there's just a lot of stuff here. It's like
it is awkward, but it does make the Hands of Harm kind of work, and mechanically it's actually fairly decent. I think.
Mhm.
I think it kind of works
Yeah.
well enough, at least effectively. But it is odd. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I do know how I feel about the 11th level feature though.
Yeah. Just quickly again, like
Uh,
going back to the flavor of this, like as someone who you're wondering, you're either healing or saving people. To then
and
go out and
mostly
just
harming, by
basically
the way.
punch someone to death, like full health to no health, doesn't really fit again. Like you're going to be the person to put them out their misery. Like
I mean, that's the same.
I guess you could then
You're always,
go along the lines of, oh, this thing needs
you're
to
always going
die
to be
to
doing
help
that.
these people, right?
Well,
But
if
that's a
you're playing
mechanic thing again.
if you're playing a doctor, like a plague doctor, who's bringing an end to people who are evil or in pain, regardless of what class you play, you're always going to be taking people from zero health to
Yeah,
from full health to zero health.
that's
So
true. And there's something about the fact that it's a monk. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the fact that it just makes
again,
more sense as a
you
grave
have to
cleric.
think monk first, plague doctor idea
Yeah,
second. So it's
which,
the problem with it.
which is a little weird, but yeah.
Yeah.
Healing technique, 11th level. Your skill in manipulating your key to heal increases. When you restore hit points to creatures using your hands of healing, you can also end one disease or condition from the following list affected with Tardic: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned.
It's lesser restoration,
It is.
but you have to use your key for it, like a person would use a spell slot, except you get it at 11th level instead of 3rd level. Also, you can remove diseases like the paladin's immune to disease by this point, by the way.
Yeah.
As is the monk. When does the monk get immune to disease?
Let's have a look.
Is that timeless body?
Purity of body, no. You're immune to disease and poison at 10th level.
10th level. Okay, so you're already immune to disease and poison. You're the paladin in your party who doesn't like you because you keep poisoning him. He's already immune to disease. And then blinded, deaf, and paralyzed, poisoned. I'm pretty sure you can do all of those with less restoration, and less restoration can do more as well. I should probably check that before
Let's very quickly check before you make yourself look like an idiot.
Blinded, deaf, and paralyzed, poisoned is exactly lesser restoration, which is a 2nd level spell. So you get a 2nd level spell for free anytime you spend one key, and the one key is almost equivalent to a 1st level spell, apart from it doesn't do the healing with a 1st level spell. So it definitely becomes an efficient way to use key.
Is lesser restoration touch?
Key. It is touch, I believe.
Okay, so it is the same range. I was just double checking.
Yeah. So it's like a free lesser restoration when you do your healing, but the healing already isn't very good. And by 11th level, it's even worse. I mean, it's obviously gotten better in terms of the actual healing it does, because your martial arts has gone up. So the healing scales better than a 1st level cure wounds does, but you can't like pump more key into it to do more healing like you might do with a spell slot. And the health pools are so high that by this point, all you're able to really effectively do with this is take someone up from 0.
Yeah.
And when you get features like that stabilize or like bring people up from 0, things like the medicine skill kind of don't really matter, right? When you have
medicine skill is definitely more for like after
a non-healer
after combat, right? And non-healer.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's for stabilizing people.
Yeah.
For the most part, if you've got healing, I usually use it. The only time I ever did medicine checks really was when I took the medic feat from the feat for skills Unearthed Arcana, which is really good because it lets people get the max roll on a hit dice if you perform a medicine check on them, DC 15 within a short rest or a long rest. Yeah, within a short rest, which I think is like one of the best features from that Unearthed Arcana. Also, one of the best Unearthed Arcanas, in my opinion.
Oh, maybe we should go through it one day.
Yeah. Anyway, this feature it's too little, too late, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if this is supposed to be the balance between the healer and the executioner parts, the healing is already not particularly effective. The executioner part is a lot more effective, especially since you just got the aura that poisons people, but also poisons your fucking allies. I feel like the Noxious Aura should have been balanced as well, to the point that maybe it could like help other people who are in it instead of hinder them.
Because that's an interesting one where
that being said, it is already a really powerful feature as it is.
Yeah, what's that character from? There is a character in Overwatch which is like that. Moira? I didn't think I played when she came out.
Know. You think Lucia?
Yes, I am. Yeah, but it's that kind of like like this aura should be able to be flipped, right? Like you should be able to do
probably. I mean, maybe that's what they could have done with the 11th thing. Level thing is
Noxious Aura and then like not Noxious Aura. Nice.
Because like, what am I thinking of? Like,
have this one actually be people
Is
in
it
your
aura or
aura are
something?
immune to blinded, deaf, and paralyzed, poisoned.
Or aura of life. Hit point. That's not the one thing of. Aura of vitality. You can use your bonus action every turn. Creatures within 30 feet of you can regain 2d6 hit points. It's now on the cleric subclass. It's not on the cleric list by default now, but it used to be a paladin only one. That's a third level one though. You get that level 5. You can use a bonus action every round for a minute to heal 2d6 healing. That seems like it would fit for something like this, especially when you've got an aura. You're supposed to be healing people. I'm surprised I didn't say aura of vitality and you can spend a certain amount of key to cast it.
Yeah.
Which probably would have been a better level 11 feature, in my opinion.
Yeah. So not great. Hand of Mercy, 17th level. I mean, to be fair, before we move on, like, not everything could be a winner, right? There's some garbage and some very good classes.
I didn't really compare what other classes got at the different, what other subclasses got at the different levels. So I'll quickly say, like, instead of Noxious Aura, open hand, regardless, is the best one. They get the fact that you can heal yourself equal to 3 times your monk level once per day, which is not. It's good, but it's not that great. Kensai get magic weapons, and then they can spend a key point to deal their martial arts dice when they hit with the weapon, which is kind of like the Hands of Harm already, but maybe a little worse. Drunken Master gets 5-foot movement to get up from being prone, and when a creature misses hitting you with an attack roll, you can spend key to make it hit someone else next to you. The Drunken Monk is really good at fighting multiple enemies within range at once. And the Shadow one, fucking hell, this is like probably the most ridiculous thing that any subclass gets, is the ability to teleport 60 feet whilst you're in dim light or darkness to another dim light or darkness. Yeah. So at night, you can just teleport 60 feet at will.
And then at level 11, they when they're in dim light or darkness, they're invisible. Or you can use it to actually become invisible, and you remain invisible until you... So you could just be invisible and teleport around, which is cool.
Yeah, basically. I guess it's cool. It's very,
that's
very
definitely more ninja,
combat,
right? That is a ninja.
Yeah,
thing.
for sure.
Ninja.
Level 11, Kensai gets +1 to +3 weapon, basically, for key points. Drunken Master can remove disadvantage from rolls by spending key. Way of the Open Hand gets Sanctuary every time they take a long rest that lasts until the next long rest or until they attack something. So things have to make a wisdom roll to attack them. I mean, you're going to be attacking as a monk, so I don't think that's that good. For how much people like Way of the Open Hand, I'm pretty sure they just like the Open Hand technique, the 3rd level thing.
I think the 5-finger death punch is just...
Oh, and the 5-finger death punch, of course, at the end. But speaking of the end, Hand of Mercy.
Yes. Hand of Mercy. Your mastery of life energy opens the door to the ultimate respite technique, or respite. I don't know how you pronounce that. Respite? Respite?
Respite? I would say respite, I think.
Either way. As an action, you can touch a creature, expend 4 key points, and force the creature to make a constitution saving throw. The creature can willingly fail the save. Unless the save succeeds, the creature enters a state of suspended animation for a number of days equal to your monk level or until you end the effect. During this time, the creature is paralyzed, has immunity to all damage, and any curse, disease, or poison affecting it is suspended. The creature appears dead to all outward inspection and to spells used to determine the creature's status. You can have this only one creature under the effect at one time.
Yeah.
There is a rule. You're a creature. A creature is anything that belongs to one of the creature types listed in the Introduction to Monster Manual. Player characters include your character, all creatures. And most of them are humanoid. One of the game's types.
Yeah. I think they include that rule specifically just to remind people you cannot do this on a corpse so that you can later save them with, like, Revivify or something. You should have... which would be a cheaper way of bringing people back to life, for sure.
You can do this on a down player, though.
You can do this on a down player, which is really good, because then you can wait until it's safe to heal them. I'm trying to think, like, let's talk about the willing side of this first, because that's kind of the first side that I thought about. If you're fighting something that is really effective against one of your allies and they're about to die, you can do this just to completely save them and hope. Like, I guess you could consider that better than them dying. A lot of the time you might just want to heal them when they get back up so they're still in the fight, but if they are so ineffective and someone is absolutely going to flat out kill them if they're given the opportunity to, then this can be a way to save them, I guess. Also, if they've got like a curse or disease or a poison that's affecting them that will kill them, and you don't have any other way to deal with it, which you should do by this point, you can cure diseases.
This is Dr. Freeze, right? Isn't that the story of Dr. Freeze? He basically suspends his wife in animation until he finds a cure.
Yeah, I guess. Only lasts
I guess up to 17 days.
17 days or up to
Yeah.
20 days
Up to
eventually.
20 days.
You can do it every day.
Yeah, that's the
do it
thing.
willing, though.
You can keep,
Was
you
his
keep it
wife willing?
extended indefinitely, right?
Yeah. In terms of the willingness, I'd find this to be a particularly effective thing. I think if we had this at level 3 and we could only use it on willing targets, I feel like we probably wouldn't have ever found a situation to use it in. Giving someone immunity to all damage is good, I guess.
But they are paralyzed.
They're paralyzed. You can just like, oh, we're worried about the trap ahead of us. Okay, let me spend 4 key points to
Yeah.
make you immune to all damage, and then I'm just going to throw you into the into the blade swords, into the buzzsaws, until it jams them, and then and then once it's broken, we'll unsuspend you, and then we'll walk past the broken mess. That's an effective way to use it. Maybe not. It's still 4 key points. Otherwise, though, using it on an enemy creature, this is a save, or this is pretty much a save or die. Oh, so even more so than Quivering Palm, I would say.
Yeah, because once they're like this, you just chuck them in lava and then undo it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, like, first of all, it's a way to take a creature out of a fight. You probably can't use this on the guy with the legendary resistances.
No. Well,
Maybe once he's burned them all down. But if he fails a con save, then bam, he is completely out of the fight for 20 days. And nothing can be done about it. You finish everything else off, and then you think, right, let's prepare the perfect situation. Let's get a long rest. The wizard can prepare the perfect spells.
Yeah.
We'll put ourselves into a situation where we cannot lose here, and then we'll unfreeze them in an anti-magic zone, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, for 3 key points, Quivering Palm will allow you to do the same thing. Apart from the number of days they can still act as they want to. That can be, again, up to like 70 to 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have to use an additional action. So in combat, you have to use another action to then kill the thing.
Well, this is when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend the thing. So you don't have to spend an action specifically to do this. You can just, it's like a stunning strike, right?
Sure,
you
yeah.
You just add key points when you hit someone, and then you have to use an action to stop it.
Oh, wait. Hand of Mercy is an action to touch the creature, and Quivering Palm is when you hit a creature. Okay, that's true. You also have to hit first with the Quivering Palm. That's true.
Yeah. But it's not like you have to spend an action to do it specifically. You can do it as part. You could do it technically. No, you could try this like 4 times.
It's an action immediately afterwards to make the damage go off as Quivering Palm. So it's going to take at least 2 turns because you can't do an unarmed strike without using your action as a monk, because you have to use your action first to be able to get the bonus action ones. You can only do the bonus action attack if you've used your attack action. So it takes 2 turns to possibly make them fail the save and throw and die with Quivering Palm. But with this, it can all be done with the same turn.
Yeah.
If they don't have any legendary resistances, you can just make them immune.
Yeah. And one thing about this as well is once you've done that, if it's something that's from a different plane, you can just banish them, right? They're not immune to banish.
Yeah, sure.
So you just banish them and then be done with it.
Yeah, banish them, and then they're at least banished there for 20 days before you've got anything to worry about.
Yeah.
Does it say that they have to be on the same plane of resistance here anywhere? Because it does for Quivering Palm. They have to be on the same plane of resistance for you to make the vibrations kill them. Yeah, sure. You can keep that on them.
Yeah.
This is a good ability. Does it fit into your idea of what the subclass was supposed to be thematically?
I think it does. I think
it does.
Because, like I said, this is a situation where you have a very important character, NPC or otherwise, that is going to die, or and there's nothing you do with it, but it's like it's going to die in a week, and you can save him, but you need 2 weeks. This is the perfect flavor, right?
You know?
This is the perfect flavor. Or you can keep it going. This is the perfect flavor of just going like, we can.
It's like gentle repose, but for someone who's still alive.
Yeah.
The problem is knowing someone's about to die whilst they're still alive, as opposed to a lot of the time when I think this stuff happens. Gentle repose is what you want to cast on them because they're already dead.
But this is very much with the flavor, right? This is you saying,
I agree.
Like, I can save this person, but I can't save them right now. But we can keep them saved until we can fix the problem. I think this for me, and I don't know why this is, feels more monk than cleric.
Yeah.
and I don't know
I would,
why.
what, Hand of Mercy? Yeah, I would say so. This feels monk to me.
Like, because
Yeah.
we've gone through the whole thing saying, like, why would you play this kind of character?
Hmm.
You'd just play Grave Cleric. But there's something
Yeah.
about this one. I guess it's got to do with, like, because you can, like, you're now immune to poison at this point. You don't age, so how
Yeah.
having that pureness of body and giving some of that to someone else.
Yeah.
That's how I'm kind of flavoring this one, more than a Grave Cleric who would just be like, well, to be fair, the Grave Cleric would be like, it's probably his
Using
time to
magic.
go. Like, my god says it's his time to go.
Okay, sure.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is thematic. Technically, I guess they're all a little thematic. I think the Noxious Aura is just so bizarre to me.
It is.
Both mechanically and flavor wise.
If healing technique was healing aura and it basically made people in the aura immune from blind, deaf, and paralyzed poisoned, basically a lesser restoration zone,
Yeah.
and you could swap between them. That is more. That would be more flavorful.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
I think there's a lot of other ways you could do this, to be honest. But
yeah, the Noxious Aura just feels. It feels like an evil thing, and I know it's not technically, but it feels like the rest of these things are at least like good, or at least on the side of good.
yeah,
There's something about Noxious Aura that just sounds evil.
yeah.
I think it's probably because it's probably the word noxious, to be fair, and toxic miasma. Like there's nothing.
The miasma.
Yeah, there's just something like inherently not good about it on a character that seems to be leaning much more towards good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's still that dissonance between being a monk and being a healer, right? Or being a mercy giver.
Again, the thing with all of the subclasses for monk is you are a monk first and foremost. Your character idea has to be a monk, and probably has to be our traditional idea of what a monk is, and then you're something else on top of that.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot of other subclasses where you can just look at a subclass and think, oh, I can like create an entire character around the subclass, and then that fits into the class quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Or the class itself is generic enough that it can fit into different things. Like a lot of the fighter subclasses and rogue subclasses, especially, you can like make very, very different characters depending on what subclass.
I guess it's one of those things where because you are working out where the magic is coming from, right?
Sure.
With barbarian, with fighter, with rogue, it's no magic. It's just like you can flavor martial people fairly easily.
Yeah.
Like a fighter can be, a soldier. It can be a sellsword. It can be a guild person. It could be a bodyguard. It could be, there's a lot of things you can do with that. They could have grown up in the streets, or they could have a fighter could have been trained in a monastery, but didn't really understand the monk part of it.
A lot of people have said monk should be a subclass for a fighter, to be honest.
I think I agree with that. I think
I agree with that too.
I think that and a brawler fighter, because I know they added the unarmed fighting style.
I don't even think it's that good though.
Which I don't think it's that good,
it works.
but it at least lets you use strength punches.
Well,
which means that if I ever revive Drake Silver, I would go with that.
But when you're looking at a fighter, you need to you need to add something ridiculously overpowered to unarmed attacks to make it better than using a weapon.
Yeah.
But when you look at monk, you don't need to do that because the monk class has so much supporting physical unarmed attacks. So that the unarmed attacks were completely fine in that because it's got all the mechanics to support it. Yeah. But then they just add all the very specific flavor stuff on top of it. That's really difficult.
I guess the other thing with fighter and unarmed strike is you're going to be in plate mail punching dudes, which has a bit of distance. I think that's the thing. Is like looking at something like Sun Soul. I guess the thing is you kind of look at these and you think like what character was Wizards thinking of when they came up with these. When you think of Sun Soul, I generally kind of go with Dragon Ball Z or any sort of monk which fires ki blasts, which is a very common thing, right?
Yeah.
And you could very easily make a Goku out of that, like the open palm, like probably just purely because of Five Finger Death Punch. They're probably thinking like Kill Bill, or any sort of like just old martial arts. Shadow is ninja, that kind of thing.
Kensai could have been a fighter subclass. I mean, there's a samurai fighter subclass, right?
Mm.
Kensai is less about the flavor of the. Kensai is almost like reflavoring the monk to be more of a fighter than the other way around, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange. So I mean, Kensai probably could have been a fighter subclass, thematically at least. I mean, Drunken Master it worked pretty well for this, I think. Open Hand. I mean, Shadow could have been like a ninja subclass for Rogue, right?
Yeah, but then they already have one, I think.
Did they? I
It's
guess
not
they did.
ninja, but it's they have a sneaky one. They have thief.
They have a sneaky Rogue.
They have thief. Well, one of the UAs was soul knife,
No,
which
I mean
is
like
monkey
I, I
scout.
mean, like Shadow is giving a lot of roguey mysticism elements to the monk. You could take the rogue and then just put the monkey mystic elements into the rogue and say that's what I'm saying. Like, not give it the shadow teleporting stuff necessarily, but then give it more of the monk flavor.
Yeah,
It depends. Like a lot of subclasses just don't give enough to a class for you to really be able to effectively change it that much.
yeah,
And to be honest, a monk fighter subclass probably couldn't do enough to come close to what the actual monk does for this
yes.
class, of course. Anyway, you got anything else to say on Way of Mercy?
I don't think so. I kind of like it. It's got
Would
some
you play it?
interesting stuff in there. I do like the stuff about the masks.
You do like masks.
I do like masks. I don't know why. I just really like the idea of masks. But I've always been a hat person as well. I like hats.
You do like hats.
Maybe I just find myself so repulsive that I always want to be wearing a mask or a hat to hide myself as much as possible.
That could be true.
That could be very true.
Would if you were going to play a monk, what would make you play this over another monk subclass?
That's the thing, right?
I don't know what would make me do it because if I came up with the flavor of a character that I really wanted to play, like the Plague Doctor thing, I'd probably just play it as a different class.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like if I were to play a monk, I would probably play either Sun Soul or Drunken Master because I think
Drunken Master
they
is pretty
are
cool.
more kind of my style and kind of I can do more with them. Again, like you say, if I wanted to play a character which was this kind of theme, I would probably play a Grave Cleric and give him a mask.
Yep.
And I just think I think it would just fit the theme better. I'm just trying to think like. Because it even says, like, those who follow the way of mercy might be humble members of a religious order. That's a cleric. Already, that's just a cleric. If it's a religious order, especially, that's 100% cleric.
To be fair, like religion is like really common in most D&D settings. Like most people are religious, even if they're not clerics. More so than any of our homebrew campaigns.
Yeah, the one thing I'm thinking of, the one time I would play this, you could play a lizard folk Way of Mercy monk. Because lizard folk already have that everything is a reality rather than idealism. Like everything is survival. Like they're very much like they're not social creatures, right? They are I eat this thing because I need food. Like they don't care what they eat, and they don't care about the stuff around it. They just like that kind of they're already that kind of thing. And you could think in like a lizard folk society, you probably have people who would do this who aren't religious. But then how do you tie in like punching people? That's the thing. How do you tie in punching people?
Well, I mean, it's unarmed, right? You don't need to be punching people as much as you can be like scratching and clawing at them in a frantic frenzy sort of way, right? Do you think like that's an interesting idea? If you're like a survival-based, like kind of almost primitive creature that only cares about its life, I guess, and staying alive. Makes sense where you'd have a lot of the wisdom and body stuff.
Yeah, because you're learning to like how to you're doing like the David Blaine like living in an icebox for like.
Are there many features that would not work with it? Slow fall, I think, to me is a little strange.
I've always been able to determine that slow fall is basically just superhero landing.
Yeah.
Or tumbling. Fair. You just know how to you know how to take a roll at the end of a jump.
You can spend 4 key points to become invisible. You can spend 8 to cast astral projection. It's a bit weird even with that, right?
Yeah. I think you would have to. Like, the thing is with like when we were talking about the Beast Barbarian one, the Path of the Beast Barbarian, like we came up with a bunch of ideas, like straight like that, stuff you'd have to like look into, and build. But you have a foundation. You can go like, that's a good idea. Let's go with that. That's a good foundation. Monks always have a difficult foundation unless you're going standard, like just standard default type of monk. It's basically your foundation is how did you become part of the monastery? What is your monastery?
Yeah.
Like to take the example of the one of Stu's of Ostilian. He was given to he was a tiefling, so he was given to them because tiefling's evil, and the parents didn't want him. The monastery was a monastery of long death because that's the one he wanted to play.
Yeah.
Like obviously you can do a lot with you can do a lot with that part where it's like he's an orphan. Interesting, but that again that you could be an orphan, be any class, right?
I guess when I think of trying to think of characters in like popular media, things like Critical Role, who are different classes, you can see people do play a lot of them really differently, right? Like you can see 5 different rogues from 5 different campaigns, and they're all really different characters. Every monk just feels the same to me.
Yeah, I know that
apart from Drunken Master, because I think like that adds a lot to it. But
I know that Beauregard from Critical Role, the latest Critical Role campaign, is a monk, and that is a different way of doing it. But again, it's like she's a bit of a dickhead, and the reason she joined the monastery is because she was like forced by her parents to like go and join it. But then
she did have to join a monastery.
But it is still a monk monastery. It still does the monk stuff. Yes, it does other stuff. They're like because the other thing is that's a homebrew. Well, it's going to be official at some point because of the Taldore whatever. Well, it's not Taldore. It's Wildmount. It's Matt Mercer's own thing. It's the Cobalt Soul, and the stuff for the Cobalt Soul fits really well. They're like a organization that researches and makes sure that things are on the level. Basically, like they go into like they like do history about stuff, and they also know about they make sure that evil isn't doing certain things and that kind of stuff. It's hard to describe because I'm stupid. But the thing is, all of those parts of the Cobalt Soul work because he specifically wrote it to fit in with the world.
Yeah.
And then the monk stuff is just perfected because it's a monk place and they fight. And now she knows like monk stuff. So even the fighting monk stuff is just because it's a monk monastery essentially.
Yeah.
Like how do you do this for the Way of Mercy? It's difficult, right? Like you're a monastery that you send your monks out to like basically deliver the verdict. You're judge, jury, and executioner, right? You deliver verdicts and say, can this person live or is this person going to die? Whichever way you go, you choose one and then you either kill them or save them. And then you go back and you do monk shit. And that's the problem. It's every subclass eventually has and then you have to go do monk shit.
Yeah.
Like with a fighter, you don't have to then go and do fighter stuff. You could just be a mercenary, and you learn to fight because you are a mercenary and you grew up fighting. Or you were a soldier, so you learned it through the military.
What other classes are so committed to something? I guess a wizard kind of has to be studious in some way. They've got a spell book that they're supposed to be working on.
But even then, you don't have to join a school.
You don't have to join a school.
Like
yeah,
Theo was never schooled. He was just interested in divination, and so that was the thing he chose.
And to be honest, Warlock. I mean, this is maybe unconventional. You can 100% make and play a Warlock completely effectively without even considering a patron. You don't need to put a patron into the story if you just want to mechanically use a Warlock, and it will work identically.
Yes, because
there is no mechanical enforcement of a patron there.
Because the thing is with that is that could be something you actually say. It's like, I'm a Warlock. I don't know who my patron is. DM, have fun. Because that's one thing. Again, go back to Critical Role. That's one thing that happened. Spoilers for Critical Role. If anyone wants to watch, do you care about spoilers for Critical Role?
I guess not.
So spoilers. This will be time stamped or whatever. So stop listening for about a minute. The Ford lost his powers at one point because he refused to do what the patron said.
Yeah.
So he lost his powers.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that works for that kind of thing, but you never really need to use it. You could just say, my patron's this, but you never actually really need to do much with it. The reason Warlock is fun is because the DM can kind of just start fucking you over. there's no. Again, it's like there's no. I am this, and then I need to do warlock shit, like with monk.
Sure. Well, I guess like if you took every class and you completely stripped all of the flavor away and you completely took away the names of all the features and you literally just had the mechanics and it's like feature 1, feature 2, and you're looking at what the mechanics like mechanically do and how and trying to come up with flavor that influences that, you can make a warlock that has nothing to do with the patron. You can make a warlock that's more akin to a sorcerer than it is a warlock, and that would work fine.
You can actually do the reverse as well. We're kind of doing that. Like in my campaign, Jackin he's a sorcerer, but he's also kind of a warlock because he has has a patron.
Yeah, and then I don't think you can do that with monk though. I think that's the issue. I think if you strip away everything, it's really difficult to look at these things. Okay, like you're doing all this punchy shit, and you also have all this like body as a temple type thing going on. I think quite clearly from the mechanics.
Yeah, I think it's because Dex and Wisdom are very restrictive. Not well. It's weird, right? Like for example, if you're thinking of a brawler pugilist, they're probably strength. This is again, we're going back to thinking like it's Brock Lesnar versus.
To be fair,
or it's like
you can use strength for all of your unarmed attacks.
But the problem is you don't get the unarmed defense because that's Dex based.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Rock versus Bruce Lee, right? Like or Ip Man or whatever. Like the Rock is going to use strength, Ip Man is going to use Dex. Or Bruce Lee's going to use Dex, and it's just that part is the part that kind of always forces you into martial, and also it's called martial arts die, but it forces you into the martial arts which are more like you can't be a wrestler, not like a pro wrestler, like an actual like Greco-Roman wrestler, like grapple people and that kind of thing. You can't do that really to make it seem effective.
I mean, you can get pretty far. Like if you said, okay, I'm going to make some homebrew changes. I'm going to change it so that your unarmored defense can be strength plus con, or I guess dex plus con. We still have to say because like barbarian exists and they're strength based and their unarmored defense is still dex plus con. Everything you could reflavor all the names of everything, and it will still make sense if you're trying to play a wrestler. Like, even like deflect missiles. I think like. I'm thinking of what's his face from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Drax.
Yeah, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. Like that works for deflect missiles still, and like, but you eventually get to what's the first point where it kind of stops making sense? Timeless body, maybe not. You can still do that.
I mean, Slowfall
we've done. I think Slowfall we said like you can just say like you're hardy enough that you can fall a lot further. Or something, or like it doesn't phase you. You're so strong that you can what's the word? Something the landing.
Superhero stick the landing.
Stick the landing, yeah.
I guess even stillness of mind. That's more just like you calm yourself down.
Which is
7th level. That's an action you end one effect of yourself that's caused by
charm. Can't be charmed or frightened. I mean, like not being frightened is like a really super barbarian type thing, right? In the first place,
but it's use your action to end the effect that's causing you to be charmed.
It's not sure. I mean,
even then,
I think that could work.
It's like calming yourself down. And,
it's when you get to empty body, you can spend key to become invisible.
I mean, even purity of body a little bit, right? Like
purity of body to
mastery of your flow flowing through you makes you immune to disease and poison. Like,
I mean, that's almost like a high con thing, right? Immunity to disease and poison.
Oh yeah, I guess it's like you can shake off poisons. And
your immune system is so strong that.
Tongue of Sun and Moon. You learn the key and you can understand all spoken language. That is
okay, yeah.
But I guess this is the thing that we're not considering, right? Like that's 13th level.
I mean, you could effectively do this up to like 12th level. I think you could make Drax as a monk, reflavor it. Maybe you need to change it from wisdom to something else. I guess
that is the part you got to reflavor the wisdom and the dex. Or Or at least the wisdom.
Based on dex. At least the wisdom. I think because like I said, you can do all of these attacks with strength if you put strength in your highest thing. It is a little worse. But again, barbarian is reliant on all three.
Yeah.
Dex, strength, dex, and con. I think you can make it to like 12th level as Drax, as a monk, and not have any dissonance.
I guess here's where it might start falling apart. Which
subclass do you
do you go?
I think open hand is probably good enough.
Open hand, Let's have a look.
What does open hand get at?
That's the
6?
thing. It's like what's open hand?
Regain hit points. I mean, the wholeness of body is just second win, but slightly different.
Yeah,
right?
I mean
That's fine.
that's fair.
Sanctuary is the weird one there.
Yeah.
Drunken Master. I mean, maybe that could work, right?
Drunken Master,
I think Drunken Master is all based on the martial stuff,
Yeah.
but still, it is very much. Well, I mean, even so, it isn't necessarily about being all drunk and stuff.
No, the Drunken Master is more about just being able to confuse your enemies with your movement, which I think is
which doesn't need to be.
That doesn't need to be drink. You don't need to.
I think you could play up to 12th level then. I think you can make Drax the drunken master and like effectively play that character and feel like the features were supporting it. And then you eventually get to the ones who become far too ingrained in specifically in mysticism.
Yeah.
To
it's just about removing that wisdom, right? But where do you use wisdom apart from? I guess it's your key saving throw and your unarmed strike, right? Oh, sorry, unarmed defense.
You could swap that to con.
You swap that to con.
Could be...
Deflect missiles is all about dexterity. That's fine. So yeah, maybe we were being unfair. If anyone's actually sticking around, we were so unfair. Maybe we are being a bit unfair and saying like, "Oh, you can't really reflavor it." You probably could. It's just when you get to the 12th level, that's when it starts to.
I think that was the stuff that we really meant in the first place.
Yeah,
it's that mysticism stuff, and of course, wisdom is still a problem there as well.
Yeah, and again, it is one of those things where you just got to realize, not all campaigns are going to make it that far. Like, we've never had a campaign go past 9th.
Yep, but I guess overall, when you try to think of like unarmed fighters in media, there are a lot of them, and Monk probably should be that. It should be that as a base.
Mm-hmm.
But when you try and think of people who would take on the other stuff like astral projection and the ability to turn invisible with ki, then it's a lot narrower. I think there's way more. Even like when you're looking like Japanese media and stuff like an anime, I think there's way more unarmed fighters that don't fit into that than there are ones that do fit into it.
I mean, just think about like any action star; they always get into unarmed fights, don't they?
Sure.
Again, I'm going back to The Rock, but then even like Batista, who is Drax, who has also been in other stuff as an unarmed bloke. John Wick, like, I know he uses a lot of guns, but he does use a lot of hand to hand.
I mean, John Wick, you could wisdom. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think John Wick you could wisdom, but again, it's like how does John Wick become like
invisible?
No,
it is the point when you can understand any language spoken.
Yeah. Just by like using their mind, that's a bit like. I mean, I guess you could reflavor that by basically saying if you make yourself, this is the problem, you have to make yourself learned and be like learning languages, and then by the time you get to there,
intelligence thing.
It's weird.
Well, the point is like you're supposed to, the ability is supposed to let you touch the mind of another creature and understand them.
Show us on the doll where the monk
touched
you.
It is still a bit much. Yeah. I don't think any other class still has that issue.
Yeah. All right. I think.
Okay.
We've gone off the beaten track a little bit.
Way too much.
but I think it's important to discuss this kind of thing while we're also talking about the Way of Mercy.
Yeah. Why not?
I think definitely having some timestamps will be useful because I think people might just want to hear about those bits. Maybe people want to hear about opinions more, but I guess I'll have to then go through this and actually timestamp shit, which is not going to be fun. But it's probably worth doing.
Yeah, probably.
But
you can do that.
Yeah, I will do that. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed.
Yes, thank you.
This, and if you have any of your own opinions, please do leave comments. We would love to hear from you and hear how we're all wrong and you're the best.
Yeah, please,
please help us. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.